Good evening, everybody. This is Kimber Booth, your pharmacy strategist, here to talk to you with a connector dot, where I'm going to be sharing insights weekdays on being a connector, being a pharmacator, and other insights to have a well-balanced life in healthcare and in pharmacy. So great to talk to you again tonight. The topic that we're going to talk about today is intrapreneurship, and I was inspired by a networking session that I had this morning that was created by my now friend and colleague, Ali Zhu, who created a group for global entrepreneurs. And I'll link to that in the notes later so you can check her out. But the topic is intrapreneurship. And so I often say that while I am now a full-time entrepreneur, previously many roles in healthcare, pharmaceutical companies, health systems, and increasing leadership roles, but now I am a full-time entrepreneur, but my target audience is actually working with intrapreneurs. And what is an intrapreneur? We're going to talk about that. What are the benefits of being an intrapreneur, how organizations can implement it, and what are some of the barriers. One thing that we talked about on the networking session this morning, which was 6 a.m. my time, because of course it's a global event, right? And so it's always hard to find time that works for everybody when you are trying to have a global time. So it was very late for Ali and then a little bit earlier, but it worked well for me because I get up every day at 5:30. So 6 a.m. is just perfect to start a networking morning. So again, we talked about the topic of intrapreneurship, and I mentioned that, I think that organizations have to support this intrapreneurship if they want to succeed, or they're going to lose those employees. And so while I'm definitely supportive of people who want to be entrepreneurs, and of course I've become one myself, ultimately most people are going to be working in organizations as intrapreneurs. And so let's talk about what is an intrapreneur, why I care about this, why I'm passionate about supporting it. But I'm sure you're mostly familiar probably with entrepreneurs, those people who are innovative, who step out on their own to kind of take full accountability for a business and start it, where everything then is within their control, but it does take a considerable amount of initiative and risk. And so what keeps a lot of people from becoming entrepreneurs is some of that risk. You might have to have some funding up front, depending on what type of an entrepreneur you want to be. It could be significant funding. And you have to identify that, come up with your business plan, and then have some branding and marketing. But many times there's a lot of fear associated with being an entrepreneur. So a lot of people won't take that leap. So how do we foster that entrepreneurial spirit in our organizations? Because again, like I say, at the end of the day, we have so many big organizations. And ironically, even if you are an entrepreneur, you may become a company that's leading entrepreneurs in the future. Because of course, as entrepreneurial businesses grow, they may start off as an entrepreneurial idea. They can grow into bigger organizations, and you're going to end up leading other people. So intrapreneurship then is that activity of entrepreneurship, but within a structure of an organization or a corporation. But it's definitely associated with creativity. And it also can be known as an internal entrepreneur, an entrepreneur on the job, or a corporate entrepreneurship, where you, again, are taking those behaviors of being an entrepreneur, but doing it within the safety of a corporation. So it ideally is facilitated by the leadership supporting an employee by having some freedom to do some initiatives with some support, but new ideas, new initiatives with some of that internal support, and that it doesn't have to follow the basic routines of the organization that exist, so they can be that entrepreneurial spirit within the organization, but within the safety and some of the funding support that exists. And Google is definitely well known for this because they have supported entrepreneurs in providing a certain amount of time during the week for people to be brainstorming and thinking about these different ideas. A lot of their portfolio has come from these ideas. Historically, there's definitely been different entrepreneurs out there, and the prime example that you're probably familiar with is actually the 3M sticky notes. And I don't actually have one near me, but the sticky note came from a person who was employed, Art Fry, who was working on trying to solve a problem personally, which was that bookmarks were falling out of his prior books in his personal life. But he worked for 3M, who had these glues and all those types of products. And so that's actually how the 3M sticky note came to be, literally true entrepreneurship, where he had this idea, he brought it up within the organization, and they were allowed to create it. And of course, we know the impact that has had on that organization, because I'm sure you have some sticky notes nearby you. So again, that's a prime example. And so another thing that comes up is, what is really then the difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur? And you may hear me saying this word and you may think that I've made it up, but it really is a real word. It is in the dictionary. It's been around for a while now. We just don't use it as often. And I think, again, I think we need to really foster this. So the main difference is, if you were to look at, a chart, and actually in my program Farmivation, in the innovation module that I have in lessons, we do talk more detail about this, about what intrapreneurship is. But at the end of the day, it's really taking that entrepreneurial spirit and doing it within the safety of the organization. So you as an individual does not have to come up with that money up front. And the good news is sometimes the additional financial gains that the organization might have from those ideas could actually be shared with you. That is not always the case. It could be just in the form of a simple bonus for recognition of that work, or it truly could be tied to profits associated with selling that product. So these are ways that we organizations could support this, again, so people don't go out there. An intrapreneur, on kind of a thoughts of what type of behaviors they have, they're definitely very high on vision and also very high on action. And so these folks are unique in some of their behaviors, but just like with a lot of competencies and skills we talk about, you can learn some of these skills and foster entrepreneurship within your employees. So I want to talk more about, why is it important that organizations support intrapreneurship? Again, I mentioned on this call this morning that if you don't support this, you can lose a lot of your employees. And a research study that was done found that 75% or 70% of the successful entrepreneurs out there came up with their idea while they were working for a previous employer. And this was a study by Harvard. And then they found that the reason why they left was many of them did try to bring up this idea within the organization, and they were discouraged from moving it forward. And so they had this sense and feeling that this organization obviously was not open to it. Their boss was unwilling to hear them, and there was no additional support for those kind of innovative ideas. So, of course, they went out on their own and made lots of money in being an entrepreneur. So again, I think that's fantastic. I want to support entrepreneurs, but we want to make sure we're supporting those innovative ideas within our organizations as well. To ensure we can keep that inside of our organization. And some of the characteristics of folks who have this mindset and drive is, again, action oriented, tend to be more creative, self-confident, a little more risk tolerant. Obviously, that's definitely key if you become a full entrepreneur. Ambitious, persistent, influencing, and innovative. So I like to think that I am an intrapreneur with some of the work that I've done to support innovative strategy to advance pharmacy practice, to be more bold about requesting pharmacy resources and not going with the status quo, and it definitely took a lot of some of the terms I just talked about, persistence, drive, being innovative, to think, how can we justify these positions when bold advances and additions of positions just weren't very common. So I do think that was intrapreneurial. I have started groups for, like when I was working in a pharmaceutical company, I actually started a group for pharmacists, a peer networking group, which was both giving back to the department as well as helping our team members. We actually called it FAB, Pharmacists at Bear, which was a fun acronym that we came up with. But I thought, working with my colleagues to create that was, intrapreneurial, and we thought, that definitely helps. So those are just a few examples where I've tried to support intrapreneurship that has helped me over time. So definitely want you to support being an intrapreneur. And there's some books about this topic that I have read, and there's some commandments that are listed that I included in the Pharmavation course. So some of those just to share with you. Again, I don't like to spend too much time on these sessions because I know it's towards the end of the day, but I just want to have this one chance to check in with you for these connector dots. But you definitely want to be, bold and, willing to step up. You definitely want to find other people to help you and to follow your intuition and speak up about your ideas. You definitely want to be asking for advice, so do move up the ladder. If you're not up the ladder, but do talk to your next in line leader. Don't go around people. If you find that your boss doesn't want to hear anything about it, then you may have to find other ways to move it forward. But it's definitely best to include your manager in your ideas and try to create a team and a momentum around it. So I think that's just an important aspect to keep in mind with some of these commandments. One of the original commandments, it's kind of funny that they had, and then they came back and clarified this commandment, which was come to work each day willing to be fired. Well, that seems kind of funny, right? And so I think they came back and clarified and said, don't ask to be fired, and you are not really trying to break any rules of the organization, but sometimes there's those gray areas, right, that we need to find and act in to navigate with our political skill to find a way to move something forward besides typical yes, no, black and white answers. There is usually a way forward in the middle and that gray area that we can find. So I just thought it's been funny that they made that recommendation. So I do not encourage you to go to work ready to be fired. The key there, I would say, is just, go to work being bold, being innovative, not accepting of the status quo for sure. So there's definitely ways, that you can, as a leader, build a culture of intrapreneurship, to make time for innovation and creativity, to not squash ideas when they are brought up, allow time for brainstorming around them, and make failure acceptable and reward that. A big thing about entrepreneurs is you have to learn to fail fast. So you want to move and iterate and try things, and you have to be accepting of the fact that there will be some failures. So I think that's an important characteristic that we should facilitate in our organizations to support this. So We want to enable it as a culture and as well as facilitate innovation itself, which is a separate topic we can cover more specifically. But some of the barriers that are seen with entrepreneurship are, of course, the opposite of some of the suggestions I've made. But sometimes our systems are too structured and too rigid. The strategic direction that we have as organizations may be too, if you will, not open for changes. You know, it's very regimented strategic direction without thinking bigger and bolder. Or maybe they don't even have included in your strategic plan innovative entrepreneurial ideas. So you want to make sure you're allowing for that time. And so some of your strategic plan, I think, needs to be, you know, the structured things that have to get done, but allow timing in your strategic planning process to allow time for innovation and entrepreneurial type ideas. Sometimes our policies and procedures are too strict, and our people themselves, we have that fear, just like I talked about with entrepreneurs, and there is a high resistance to change in many cases. And another very bad thing that I see is complacency. That is like the root of negativity in many of our organizations, and we have to be careful not to become complacent and lax and just going along with the flow. We have to be engaged, you know, ask the right questions. Don't bite off more than we can chew, but definitely try to move forward and not be complacent. So, and then the bigger picture, of course, that, you know, what they say is, you know, culture will kill strategy all the time, is, you know, you have to have a good culture, and having, you know, values or poor culture that conflict with innovativeness and risk-taking behaviors is, you know, can be bad and will make it very hard for an organization, you know, to be innovative. But I don't think it was Forbes or the Harvard Business Review. There was definitely an article that I've read on this topic in the past that said, you know, organizations must support intrapreneurship to be successful, because whether it's these big, innovative, huge ideas, or it's just the little innovative ideas that just make the day-to-day workflow better, we need to be doing all of that to really advance in our organizations and within our profession. So that's really all I wanted to cover today. Thank you for joining me. For those of you who are in person, I know some people will be joining again as this is recorded. Again, I will be checking in here. If you want to go to my website, kimberbooth.com, and sign up to receive emails from me, I can send you information about the topics I'm going to be covering for the week, as well as send you the links to these once they're done, because I know it's hard to catch all of these little sessions when they're occurring within your social media feed. But I would love to support you. So go to kimberbooth.com, and then you can go to the contact page to sign up. Or if you want to chat with me further about entrepreneurship or your career growth or strategic planning, feel free to schedule an exploration call with me. You can find that on that contact page at kimberbooth.com/contact. So great talking to you tonight. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow for some Wisdom Wednesday conversation. So talk to you then. Have a great night. Bye-bye.